is that in this warm-up, when you were factoring before, the leading coefficient for every single one of these quadratics was 1. Okay? 1, 1, and 1. All right? So when you see the notes today, it says factoring with a leading coefficient not equal to 1. And we're going to do that a little bit different. So let's just kind of talk about this one right here. So we have h squared minus 17h plus 72. So when we factored this, we would use this organizer, and we're looking for two numbers that multiply to 72, and they add to negative 17. Right here. I'm doing this one. All right. So what are these two numbers? What are two numbers that multiply to 72 and add to 17, or negative 17? Good. So negative 9, negative 8. And so we would just go ahead and say, well, x minus 9, or h, x minus 8. And that would be it. Okay? But we're going to do it a little bit differently today. Even though we're still going to use this graphic organizer to establish the two numbers, the factoring from there is going to be a little bit different. So this time, you're going to still use this, but now we're going to find two numbers that multiply to whatever the first term times the last term is. So I'm finding two numbers that multiply to 20 and add to 9. All right? What are those numbers? Huh? 5 and 4. Okay? Do we all see that part? This top number, it's kind of like this. It's really saying, look, this top number is whatever the first number is times the last number. But in this case, it's always been 1. So it's just the last number. Okay? But now we're saying, okay, now it's a different number. The leading coefficient out here is something other than 1. So we're saying this, we're looking for two numbers that multiply to whatever this times this is, and it adds to the middle term. Okay? So then I'm going to come over here. I'm going to take these two terms, and I'm going to split up this middle term. So we used 5 and 4, so 5x and 4x. Those are my middle terms. Okay? And they're both positive. And then I'm going to bring down the first and the last term. So we have 2x squared, and we have plus 10. You still with me? Okay. Then we're going to factor by grouping. Okay? So I'm going to group the first two terms together. I'm going to group the last two terms together. So out of 2x squared and 5x, what am I factoring out? X. All right? So we are left with 2x plus 5. What am I factoring out of 4x and 10? Just 2. Okay, and again, now I have 2x plus 5. So then we would factor out the 2x plus 5, and we're left with x plus 2. Okay, and that's factoring when my leading coefficient is not 1. All right, so let's look at it again. Graphic organizer, looking for two numbers that multiply to negative 6 and add to 1. All right, so what are my two numbers? Negative 6 and adds to 1. Somebody besides Lauren. Caitlin. 6 and 1 gives you a 1 back. Luke? Of course you can. Look at the factors of 1 and 6, or of 6. We have 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. Because it has, how does 1 minus 6 give me a 1? It has to add to this middle term. So look at the factors of 6. I have 1 and 6 and 2 and 3. Hang on. Which one gives me a 1 back? The 2 and 3 will give me a 1 back somewhere. It'll either give me a 5 or a 1. Okay? So one of them has to be negative in order to multiply to a negative 6, but it has to add to a positive 1. Which one's going to be negative? No, the 2. Okay? These are my two numbers. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Negative 2 plus 3 gives me 1. So I'm going to take negative 2 and 3, and I'm going to split this middle term. Now, it does not matter whether you put this number here and this number here or the way that I've done it. You'll be able to factor it either way. All right, so then we'll bring down the 3v squared and the minus 2. All right, and we'll factor by grouping. It doesn't matter. You can put them in any order. Your answer will still come out the same. All right, so I'm going to factor out a v out of the first terms, and I get 3v minus 2. I'm going to factor a 1 out of these two terms and get a 3v minus 2. So I have 3v minus 2 times v plus 1. Okay? All right, so let's do a little bit of practice here. All right, factor. All right, so our organizer should be finding two numbers that multiply to 30, 5 times 6, and add to 31. What are my numbers? 30 and 1. Okay? So again, doesn't matter. Let's just kind of split this up. We'll say 1 and 30. Okay, just in case y'all did it 30 and 1, we'll do 1 and 30, and we'll see that it gives you the same answer. So we have the 5x squared, and we have the positive 6. All right, so factoring by grouping, I'm going to factor out an x, and I have 5x plus 1. Here, I'm going to factor out a 6, and I have 5x plus 1. So we have 5x plus 1 and x plus 6.